رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. So today in our Hadith Halaqah we are going to be discussing the Hadith, very important Hadith, continuing rather from our last session, the Hadith of intention. The Hadith of intention, I think most people either know this or should know this. Because as Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, one of the great muhaddithin, the Imams of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, rather when you actually say Imam Ahlul Sunnah, this is a title which is given to typically Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala. Let's not go into the reason why, we'll spend a different session discussing that. But nevertheless, the Imam of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, would say this hadith is one of three hadith which has the usul of Islam, the principle, the core fundamental foundations of Islam. One of those hadith is this hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So inshallah we'll recite the Arabic first, tabarrukan, seeking barakah from the hadith, the blessed hadith and the wording of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. عن عمر رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نواه فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته لدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. So Bukhari and Muslim narrate this. So when Bukhari and Muslim narrate a hadith, do we know what it's called? It's given a specific category. Muttafaqun alayh, ahsant. Muttafaq alayh, that means in hadith nomenclature, it means that this is one of the highest levels of hadith with regards to authenticity. So there's no doubt about the authenticity of this hadith. So Umar radiallahu anhu says that I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, saying that verily actions are based upon their intentions, and verily every person will get what he intended. Therefore, whoever's hijrah is to Allah and His Rasul, whoever's migration is to Allah and His Rasul, then his hijrah will be to Allah and His Rasul. Meaning it will be considered and deemed by Allah Azza wa Jal as he intended towards Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And whoever's hijrah was for the dunya, so that he may attain the dunya, a part of the dunya, some materialistic means. أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنْكِحُهَا, or a woman, so that he wants to marry this woman. فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ, so his hijrah, his migration will be deemed as and considered for whatever he did it for. This hadith, it explains just by thinking about that wording of the hadith. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ. This is the part where most people tend to memorize. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ. The ulama say that what is meant by إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ إِنَّمَا صِحَّةُ الْأَعْمَالِ بِالنِّيَّةِ. Because if you think about it, actions are based upon the intentions. So therefore, if I was to take it from a literalistic perspective, that would mean if I don't intend, an action won't take place in reality as well. But we see the contrary. We see that actually people sometimes don't make an intention, but they still do an action or subconsciously, and the action will still take place. For example, a person prayed salah but he didn't really make an intention. A person did wudu but he didn't have any intention. The wudu is still done. The wudu is still, as in it's still taking place in actuality, in real life. But that's why the ulama say what's meant by this hadith is sihhatul a'mal bin niyat, as in the correctness, the validity of the action and the reward of the action will be based upon the intention. So essentially, if a person, based upon some schools of thought with regards to fiqh, if a person was to do wudu now and he didn't make the intention, according to Imam Shafi'i, his wudu is not valid. That's the importance of intention that Imam Shafi'i gives in fiqh. Whereas other schools, like the Hanafi school, will say that your wudu is still valid. But because the fuqaha don't delve into matters of reward and sin, they only delve into matters of halal and haram. Therefore, that's not their domain. They don't talk about reward. But the fuqaha mention that his wudu will be valid, but he will not get any reward from it. He will not get any reward because it was void from any intention. Anyway, just coming back to the wording of the hadith. So, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى. Verily, actions are based upon their intentions, as in the reward of that action will be suspended on the intention being there. Not only the reward though, but sometimes the sin will also be based upon the intention, the wrong intention being there. So if there's a good intention, therefore that action will result in reward. And if there's a bad intention, that action will result in sin also. So if I was to say Allahu Akbar and start my salah, but I'm intending to impress people in the masjid, no sawab, no thawab there, no no reward there, but rather there's a possibility of sin also. As long as, but now how do we know? How do we know that, you know what, we're actually praying salah? The ulama say that if you are constantly battling with your intention, as in you make an intention and then it becomes diluted, and then shaitan has a bit of a portion in there as well, and he starts playing with your intention to the extent that it's a constant battle going on. As long as there's an active battle going on within, that you know what, you're thinking, no, I'm not going to let shaitan take this action of mine. I'm not going to let him win by him overpowering my intention. I'm going to do it for the sake of Allah. Even then a bit of dunya creeps in, but you carry on pushing that dunya away, then your action will be liable for some reward. Obviously, it will be proportionate of the level of sincerity. Fudayl bin Iyad, rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the great ones of the Salaf, would say that under the verse لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا of Surah Mulk, الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. Allah is the one who created death and life so that He may test you which of you has the best action. Under the أحسن عملا, He mentioned أخلصه وأصوبه. أخلصه وأصوبه. What is meant by the best action? Because if you ask everybody's got a different definition of what best is. When somebody says, for example, married folk will understand when they say, oh, get me the best chocolate, or get me the best bread there. You have to say, okay, what do you mean by best? Okay, put a brand on it, but give me some sort of, filter it down, okay? Give me some description. What is the best for you? Yeah, everybody's got a different definition of what best is. And the definition of best, according to Allah Azza wa Jal, is the one that is most sincere. أخلصه. And وأصوبه, the most correct and in line with the Sharia. The most in line with the Sharia. So two things we understand from this. It's not just about your intention. You can be a very well-intentioned person, but at the same time, if your action is wrong, then you're still wrong. And the opposite is also true. You might have wrong intentions, but you're doing something good. Then again, even then, you're doing something good, but that will still be void of either full reward or partial reward. So from this we understand that our niyyah needs to be correct, and also our amal needs to be correct, our actions need to be correct. If anybody has any questions, by all means, ask away. So the hadith says, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى, that verily every person will get what he intended. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something similar in the Quran, وَأَلَّيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. And is it not for every individual whatever he strives for? Whatever he strives for. As in, a person will definitely get whatever he strives for in this dunya. Whatever his juhd is, whatever his struggle is in this dunya, a person will definitely get that. And if he doesn't get that in this dunya, then he will definitely get a replacement of that in the akhirah. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Therefore, whoever's hijrah is to Allah and His Rasul. Why was hijrah mentioned here? Why was the action of hijrah, out of all actions, out of all good deeds and actions of nobility, why was hijrah mentioned? Anybody? Why was hijrah mentioned in this hadith to complete the wording of the hadith?
I remember correctly, it was to encourage hijrah. This hadith was mentioned at the time to encourage hijrah.
To encourage hijrah? Anybody else? No? Think about it. Is hijrah... was hijrah at the time from Mecca to Medina, or whatever hijrah it was to Abyssinia before that, was it a minor thing or was it a major thing? As in, was it something easy or was it something difficult? It was something difficult, yeah? Immense difficulty. Think about it. You've grown up in a place. All your memories, all of your, your heart's attached to that place. All of those memories, every street you know, every pothole you know, if you're talking about the UK. Yeah, every place you know, naturally you're going to be attached to that place, even if you don't own much in that place. All of your memories, that sentimental value. And then the Muslims are told that they need to migrate now and leave everything behind, sometimes leaving family behind, sometimes leaving wealth behind, often. So this was something of major importance. It was a big deal, basically. And even then, Allah's Rasul saying is, even if you did a great deed, if you didn't do it for Allah, don't expect much. If you did it for the woman, that's all you're getting. That's not my words, Rasulullah's words. If you did it for the woman, because there were individuals amongst them who went to Medina because they fell in love with a woman there and they wanted to get married to her. So therefore they just thought, you know what, I'll just two birds with one stone. So two birds with one stone. Allah's Rasul was trying to explain that your intention should be sincere even if in big deeds. So if that's the case with big deeds, by small deeds also. So whoever intends the dunya so that he may get it, or a woman so that he may marry her, then his hijrah will be deemed for that thing. It reminds me of a hadith, if I recall correctly, it's either in Bukhari or Muslim, one of the two, or maybe in both as well. That when three people will be called to Allah Azza wa Jal on the Day of Judgment, amongst them will be a qari or a scholar. Amongst them will be a generous person, and amongst them will be a mujahid, a person who gave his life in battle, fighting for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And all of these three people, like for example, the qari, it will be said to him, I'm paraphrasing, but it will be said to him that I gave you knowledge, and you were given knowledge. What did you do with that? And then he will say, Wallah, I spread that knowledge for your sake. And the mujahid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, I gave you strength, I gave you the ability, what did you do with it? He'll say, I fought and I gave my life for you. And then the generous person will be told that I gave you wealth, what did you do with it? He said, I spent it so that it may be of benefit, and I spent it in your path. And then the reply will come, إنما فعلت ليقال كذا وكذا فقد قيل. You only did it so that it would be said that so-and-so was a great qari, a great alim, so-and-so was such a brave person, he gave his life in battle, so-and-so is such a generous person, he's always doing charitable acts. فَقَدْ قِيل. Now, it's been said now. فَقَدْ قِيل, as in, what does it mean? فَقَدْ قِيل, it's been said now. As in, you've got your reward in the dunya. Once you've claimed your reward here, you can't claim it again in the akhirah. Once you've got your reward here in the dunya, that's it. That's it. You've had your temporary praise. Your praise was your reward. And because their intentions were not, think about it. In our society, in our communities, these people are the people who are considered the best of society. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about those who give their life in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ عَلَى الْقَاعِدِينَ دَرَجَةً. That those people who give their lives, they're given immensely greater reward. So despite that, the best of people are being mentioned, but at the same time, if their intentions were not sound, then even these people will be thrown into Jahannam. Na'udhu billah. So it just shows it's a reality check for us. It's a point of reflection. It's a point of reflection that, you know what, I'm doing so much, but is the why correct? Is the why I'm doing it, is that correct? Many times people, in a culture where we very easily get deluded by people's validations. Somebody will say that, you know what, you're a very good person and you do so many good things. Okay, fair enough, if you do them good things, and if the person is on one extreme and the person needs that validation, needs a bit of a self-esteem boost and so on and so forth, it can be very good. But if the person's a sound person, he's not got any mental health issues, and rather he's a bit overconfident. He's a bit overconfident in himself, and you know what, maybe his intentions are not the purest. And then we hear people's praise, you're so knowledgeable, or mashallah, you're so pious, or mashallah, you recite Quran very beautifully. And we start getting deluded and we forget all of the sins that we've done. Then foolish is the one who leaves the certainty that he knows about himself for the doubt or for the speculation of other people about us. Yeah? Because people, they don't truly know. They don't truly know. We know ourselves and Allah knows us. It's only a fool that actually falls for that praise when people praise him, and actually he'll leave the certainty that he has within himself. He knows himself, but he'll leave that. He'll forget that for people's assumptions about him. Even though it's good to have good assumptions, it's good to. That's not to say, but the point is that when we know that we could have intended better, then we shouldn't let these things delude us. Our Shaykh Yusuf Mutala, rahimahullah ta'ala, he would mention the hadith about being praised, and even to the extent of introductions before a person's about to speak as well. He wouldn't really like them because he would say it's tantamount to praising that person publicly. And the more you praise somebody publicly, then it's as though you're throwing him into Jahannam, because if that praise gets to the person and he develops some sort of ego or arrogance or pride about himself, then you've not been good for that person. Rather, it's tantamount to destroying that person. So very, very important to stay grounded in these sorts of things. Stay away from any extreme. Stay away from any extreme. Any extreme, stay away from. So this hadith, any questions? With regards to salah or generally? So the question is, a very good question, mashallah. Is niyyah an action of the heart or is it the action of the tongue? So definitely it's an action of the heart. Why some ulama would say or train their students, especially the beginner students who are beginning to learn certain actions like salah, why they would get them into the habit of verbalizing the niyyah is so that they become more conscious of what they're doing. It's a good action. It's a good action until you've mastered making intention with your heart. As in, it's just like you wear the armbands when you're going to swimming. As in, for the beginning time, it's fine. And if it helps a person focus their niyyah, it's a good thing. It's not something that's haram. And as long as they don't consider it a sunnah or anything like that, then it doesn't become a bid'ah. Then it's fine to do. So niyyah is definitely one of the a'malul qulub. Some ulama have even gone to the extent of saying that just like if you look at the kaba'ir, the major sins, most of them, or the roots of those sins, tend to be linked to the heart. Tend to be like it comes in a narration. Even though I'm not too sure about the authenticity of the narration, I don't think it's on the stronger side. But رأس كل خطيئة, what's the hadith? I can't remember now. Subhanallah. Yallah. Okay, carrying on with the hadith, inshallah. Let's look at some of the statements that the Salaf have made with regards to this hadith in particular. Sorry? حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. Now, so the love of the dunya, if you think about all of the sins, if you were to reflect and look at them deeply, the root is always the dunya. The root is always the dunya. Now the hadith ضعيف, it's a weak hadith now. لا عمل لمن لا نية له ولا أجر لمن لا حسبة له. So Bayhaqi has mentioned this with a weak isnad as well. Nevertheless, going into the hadith, going into the narration, that there is no action for the one who has no intention, and there is no reward for the one who has no hisbah. Anybody know what hisbah means? Anybody? I'll give you a clue. Ihtisab. Ihtisab. Expectation. Think about it. Has anybody ever been in a situation where, let's just say, you've traveled for work, or you've done something extra and then that you've claimed that money back? Anybody been in that situation? You've done a favor for somebody and they'll say, okay, whatever the fuel cost it was, I'll pay you back. Yeah. That's normal, right? That you've done something extra for me. Okay, I'm going to give you that back, and it's something that's socially accepted, right? You've done this extra, therefore you can expect a bit more back. If that's the case with people, then shouldn't we claim back more or think about that reward more with Allah Azza wa Jal? We don't become stingy by thinking like that, because there's nobody else that can give us reward. Yeah, if there was anybody else that could give us reward, maybe it would be considered stingy then. But who else is there to give us reward? Who else is there to give us reward? So for that reason, always have ihtisab and the expectation of reward. Think about it. This always from a mental health perspective, people who should have the worst mental health, technically speaking, if you think about it relatively, are the people who have suffered the most, right? Look at the people of Sham, look at the people of Gaza. And generally speaking, obviously there will be trauma. There will definitely be trauma. But overall, proportionate to how much they've suffered, this state, yeah? The state, like a normal person, a normal person was to suffer as much as they have, this state would be far worse off. But what keeps them going and functioning? One of the things, as well as the iman and yaqeen, is that yaqeen of that hisbah, that you know what, we're going to get something back. Oh Allah, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want in this dunya with us, we're going to get something back. That ihtisab is one of the things that made the Sahaba able to endure like crazy things in this dunya. Crazy things. Because they knew, you know, it's only a matter of time. I'm going to get everything back. I'm going to get immense back. As though their bodies were in this dunya, but their arwah, as though it was already in the akhirah, seeing that reward piling up. It's just that reflection, thinking like that, thinking like the Sahaba, that can change your life more than actually doing more a'mal and so on and so forth. Just reflect more. فاعتبروا يا أولي الأبصار. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, reflect. فاعتبروا. Okay. يعني لا أجر لمن لم يحتسب ثواب عمله عند الله عز وجل. وعن يحيى بن أبي كثير قال تعلموا النية فإنها أبلغ من العمل. So Yahya ibn Abi Kathir, he would say, learn intention. Think about it. Yeah, think about it. Like we learn salah, we learn tahara, we learn these things. But when's the last time you learned, like somebody who told you, learn to intend? Yeah, because we do it already, we think we know how to do it properly. It's not necessarily the case. Only when you see somebody being very meticulous with his intentions do you understand that, you know what, there's an art behind making intentions as well. تعلموا النية, learn intentions, because intending is more أبلغ. How would you translate أبلغ? It's very difficult here, but it's more potent. Yeah, it's more likely to make you reach your destination than doing actions, solely doing actions. Many people, when they think of piety, as in their perception of piety, I want to become salih, I want to become a good person. What do they think? Worship. Yeah? But at the same time, if that worship is not efficient in the sense that you haven't intended amazing things behind that, it's possible that you're exerting yourself, you're tiring yourself, but only if you did a fraction of that, but with immense intentions, you would have got the same level or better. You would have got the same level or better. This is why, it could possibly be that one night a person goes to sleep with the intention, I'm going to rise up and I'm going to fulfill all of my fara'id and give everybody their rights and everything that is expected from me with regards to my fard actions and staying away from haram. I'm going to sleep the whole night until fajr. Yeah, he is a better person than the person who wakes up for tahajjud and then but just is basically getting by. He's falling short in a few things, he's falling short in other obligations, and in staying away from haram, he's falling short. That person who intended everything correctly, it's very, very likely that that person is actually greater in maqam and rank. So again, our validation is not people. Our validation is not people. We don't need validation from people for us to understand what level we are on. Just by being alone with Allah Azza wa Jal, that is enough of a reflection to understand. Somebody said that if you want to know your spiritual state, then look where your mind lingers in your free time. What does your mind go towards? What does your mind gravitate towards in your free time? That's where your spiritual state is. There's some people in their free time, their mind will go towards Allah and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There's some people, and that's how they are able to see Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in their dreams and so on and so forth, because they have that yearning and that longing and that love to begin with. وعن زبيد اليامي قال إني لأحب أن تكون لي نية في كل شيء. So Zubayd al-Yami rahimahullah ta'ala would say, I love that I have an intention in every single thing. حتى في الطعام والشراب, even in eating and drinking. Yeah, us guys in 2025, we're in a generation everybody loves eating and drinking. Everything on Instagram and TikTok, and seeing these new desserts coming out every time. Yeah, Dubai chocolate bar and so on and so forth. Kunafa this, kunafa that. طعام and sharab, it's halal, it's mubah. You're not going to get reward, but you can get reward. The focus is you can get reward if you intend. Yeah, that can become an ibadah if you, between you and Allah Azza wa Jal, intend. You know what? You know, some of the fuqaha actually, they mention, some of the fuqaha actually mention on the hadith, which is mentions that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would only fill a third of his stomach with food and a third with, if a person, like, that hadith mentions luqaymat, a few small morsels that can straighten your back. That should be enough for a son of Adam. But if he was to go beyond that, then a third for his food, a third for his drink, and a third for air. That's if he wanted to go beyond that. Yeah? Now think about it. What's our state? The ulama, the fuqaha mentioned, if a person wanted to justify eating a full stomach, the only reason he can justify it, at-taqawwi ala al-ibadah, to get strength to do ibadah, more ibadah that day. Otherwise, it's not justifiable. Now think about it. It's the intention that made something which was previously makruh and undesirable, yeah, disliked. Now it's okay, it's fine. It may even be commendable. It may be commendable because he intended, I'm going to do more good deeds today with that fuel, with that extra energy that I'm going to get. عن داود الطائي قال رأيت الخير كله إنما يجمعه حسن النية. Dawood al-Tai would say that I saw that all goodness, the one thing that gathers all of goodness together is having a good intention. Yeah? And Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah ta'ala would say ما عالجت. Do you know who Sufyan al-Thawri was? Anybody heard of Sufyan al-Thawri? Anybody know anything about him? No? What time was he around? So he was a contemporary of the Imams like Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala. Yeah? He even had his own madhab of fiqh. He was a faqih, a muhaddith. Yeah? He was of a high caliber. He would say, think about it, like our time you would think like a great caliber of scholar. But even he is saying this, ما عالجت شيئا أشد علي من نيتي لأنها تتقلب علي. I have never experienced anything more difficult to me than my own intention. Why? لأنها تتقلب علي, because it keeps changing. It keeps changing. Like, I don't know where it's going to go. That's what you call being honest with yourself. That's what you call sidq. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كونوا مع الصادقين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. O believers, fear Allah and be with the truthful ones. This is truthfulness. That what you are, you don't portray yourself in a different way. What you are, that's it. If you're struggling with something, you mention it to the people that can help you, and that's it. Now, I'm not saying have a placard and advertising your spiritual state to everybody, but not portraying yourself in a different way, not making yourself seem overly pious if you're not on that level, just being natural, without any takalluf, without any formality. This is how these people were. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum were the most far away people from takalluf and acting, putting an act on. لأنها تتقلب علي. Think about it, reflect on our state as well. Yusuf ibn Asbat would say, تخليص النية من فسادها أشد على العاملين من طول الاجتهاد. To purify your intention from bad intentions, and as in to purify from bad intention into a good intention, this is more difficult on the people who are already doing good deeds, already doing the amilin, who are already doing amal. This is more difficult for them than doing a lot of exertion. As in, let's just say a person's used to praying X amount of rak'at. Let's just say he's praying 20 rak'at of nafil extra every day. He's waking up to tahajjud. He's doing all these nawafil. More difficult than that is actually correcting your intention. Yeah? But at the same time, you know, I'm supposed to end now, yeah? At the same time, more important than that is that you don't become despondent. You don't become despondent that, you know what, I'm just losing this battle. Because to some degree, some of the ulama would say that every action begins with a portion of riyah within it. As in, it's natural for riyah to come in a bit and for you to become a bit changed and influenced by people being around you and starting to do things because of people to some degree. But the main thing is, how do we know that we're on the right path? As long as we are fighting that. As long as we're fighting towards getting 100% for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. As in, we're not content with 5% being for shaitan. We're not content with that. Yeah, we're fighting. We're fighting all the time so that it be 100% for the sake of Allah, then we know that we're on the right track. And we can hope for forgiveness from Allah Azza wa Jal for that 5%, for that 1%, whatever may be for the shaitan, because we're trying to get rid of it. It reminds me of, Life with Allah. They have this book with regards to your salah and your adhkar. I can't remember which book in particular, but it mentions that it has a very nice section on niyyah and intention in there. And it mentions the 3 or 4 different categories of people with intentions in salah. The only one that can be justified, the lowest level, is the one who's constantly fighting. Otherwise, the one who's totally gone is like, as in, as soon as he says Allahu Akbar, that's all he's thinking. Where did I lose my keys? How much money have I got in the bank? And these sorts of things. What do I need to get for shopping tonight? Shaitan. But he accepts it. He just lets it go. That person's salah can't be justified because he's not fighting anymore. The main thing is, يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه. O insan, O mankind, O insan, O man, you are going to be struggling until you meet your Lord. That's what Allah expects from us. Struggle. Struggle for His sake. If you don't do it for His sake, you're still struggling in this life. Everyone's struggling in this life. It's just about making your struggle worthwhile. Get something out of your struggle. Many people struggle. They complain, but they don't get anything out of it. But there are those people, like the people of Gaza, like the people of Sham, they struggle as well. But they know, they have yaqeen. We're getting something out of this. Inshallah, I'll end there. I wanted to mention something else of Abdullah ibn Mubarak. Am I allowed to? No? Okay, طيب. I think in 1 minute I'll just mention on this. I won't elaborate on it. Abdullah ibn Mubarak would say, رُبَّ عَمَلٍ صَغِيرٍ تُعَظِّمُهُ النِّيَّةِ. Sometimes a small deed, the vast intention behind it will make it a great deed in the sight of Allah. And sometimes وَرُبَّ عَمَلٍ كَبِيرٍ تُصَغِّرُهُ النِّيَّةِ. And sometimes a large deed, people say, wow, subhanallah, mashallah, how did you do that? Amazing. But in the sight of Allah, because it's a meager intention, it's meager. It's nothing, it's rejected. So it's just a reality check for all of us, inshallah. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.